is 6 o'clock, so let's go ahead and start. We'll call the meeting to order. Quick roll call.
Grady Bonzel.
Here.
Dennis Sneeden.
Here.
Matt McKenzie.
Here.
Curtis Penrod.
Here.
Wally Hanson.
All right. Public comment? Appears there is none. So moving into the variance request. So, Kent, do you have any information there? Do we need to, we'll try to look, what is my formal process here?
Hold on just a second. I got a request on whether it's a city commission or a planning commission meeting, and this is a planning commission.
Okay.
And
We're all in the right place.
just want to get that. I'm waiting for Zach's text back, and I got that text. Sorry about that. This is a variance request, and notice to all involved. Wanted to modify a couple different things. One was the intensity of use regulations, and the other is the yard regulations. This is on behalf of the school district, and it's regarding a property on Cherry Avenue. The property, it is the 3rd edition of Goodland, Block 20, and it's all of lots 7 and 12, and some extra regarding lot 6. It's more commonly known as 1214 Cherry Avenue, and the adjacent lots all the way down to 13th Street. What they are looking for, Zach put it in the official notice. The minimum lot area is 7,000 square feet, and the minimum lot width 50. But the lot coverage states that the combined area of the principal structure and accessory structure shall not cover more than 50% of the lot area. The school district is looking to have more of the lot coverage than 50%. And then on the yard regulations, the minimum yard depths, since this is still in R1, is 20 feet from the property line. And then on a side yard, you see it in the official notice there. 1 story of 6 feet, 2 story 10 feet from the property line. And then on the rear yard, 10 feet from the property line. That's what the notice had stated. Zach had put it in there. The applicant is requesting to use 77% of the lot instead of the allowed 50%. So that's quite a big difference. But you have to realize it's regarding a school building, it's not really residence. So, but schools are allowed within R1. The variance 2 on the front yard setbacks, applicant is requesting to reduce the front yard setback to 8 feet instead of the allowed 20 feet. Now that's not 8 feet from the street. If you look at the screen, what it has now, which Josh has put up there.
Bigger than just the street.
Yeah, the right of way is bigger than the street. So it's not 8 feet from the curb, it's 8 feet from the property line.
Mm-hmm.
So the property line is, you have a measuring tool there, it's, I don't know, probably 5-10 feet behind the curb. The middle one, yeah. If it'll let you do it, maybe it won't.
About 20 feet.
Yeah, so there's significant distance. It may not be the same on the south side towards 13th Street, but it's, you know, it's not 1 or 2 feet either. It's several feet behind the curb.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have 8 feet from the, instead of the allowed 20 feet, that makes a big difference, obviously, in how they're going to site the building.
And how it affects the neighbors.
and how it affects the neighbors. And with streets on two sides of it, alley in the back, and then it depends, where it would fit on, because they're going to end up moving the one house, and they were planning on the middle house as well. But it would be nice to see a site plan overall, to understand, okay, what are we trying to get to? What's the purpose
It's
to it?
my understanding that middle house, the woman that owns it is not interested in selling it.
And that's, neither here nor there as far as our consideration. That's just what I was told by the applicant, so. So that's what the two variances are requesting.
Out of curiosity, how far is, so the middle, not the first house that they're gonna move, the middle house, how far is the front of that house to the property line?
He's
Right
got,
at his 20 feet, 21 feet.
Zach had written out somewhere that
I just,
Both.
Josh measured it.
both of those were at 15 feet from the property line.
Yeah, maybe with the porch.
Yeah, right here. Yeah. And the property's to the north.
Yeah. The trees.
Yeah, it's aerial. But he's got here approximately 15 feet from the property line, or 35 feet back from the curb.
So it's not a substantial difference, about 8 feet, 7, 8 feet difference from where the houses are
As far as the building
to
line.
where the building would be. So it's not like they're setting it out on the curb and it's 30 feet difference.
No.
It's-
As far as how it lines up facing Cherry.
Yeah.
Now the garage down on 13th, the one behind it,
That sits out way far, doesn't it?
yeah,
That's probably beyond what they're asking for already.
now it's not gonna match that building.
Right. But if you're looking at, what's already existing, that one already sticks way out.
Right. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Curtis.
No, that's
It's just-
fine. Just the other part of that front yard ordinance or code says that it's an average distance measured from the curb to the neighboring properties on the block. So that would seem like that would be 15 feet. If all the rest of those houses are 15. You got 20 feet from the property line, or the average distance measured from the curb to the neighboring properties on the block. It's the current code section.
And they probably had that as, we did look at that when we were looking at different types of things, regarding the building line issue.
Mhm.
The 20-foot front yard setback, the older homes, the ones built before zoning, probably aren't gonna meet that.
Oh, I'm sure there's a lot of existing non-compliant structures out there.
Well, and since this is on the corner right there too, we changed something about which sightline, they can exceed one of the sightlines now, right? Because that duplex that got built
Right.
on Cherry is like that. So really, if
One's forward, the other one shouldn't be.
the other one shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Well, the house that's on the corner, Gary and Diana's house, it sits back, but their fence is on the side there, so.
On the
Is that
property line, or
yeah,
beyond the property line.
Right, but, I mean, that's,
What's the high school, the lot that it sits on, what is it zoned right now? Is it R1 as well?
Yeah.
And what's the auditorium entrance? It's pretty close.
Yeah, but steps and porches don't count.
Still, take that off and look at where the
Yeah, that's definitely,
front of the auditorium. I'm just looking at what else is in the neighborhood.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right.
And-
As we should.
And that, this probably isn't out of character for that block, for what already exists there.
you got measured from there, the sidewalk, into the sidewalk, so that's the setback from the property line, basically, there, 25.
Yeah.
So that is within the 20 foot, so it's.
Yeah, it's
That's
definitely
compliant.
within the 20 foot, yeah.
it's compliant.
I mean, it's whatever that roof portion is on that entrance into the building. The doors there are definitely closer than 20 feet. And on the other side too,
On the 12th Street?
on 12th Street.
Yeah.
But so is the house on the other corner.
They're almost on the sight line up there, so.
Yeah, 12th Street has that angled parking, which provides you with additional layer of pedestrian protection from vehicular traffic.
And that's what they're talking about with this building too, with the angular parking.
Yeah, because they want
One
One way, right,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah.
The one thing before we go too much further, that these are two different requests.
Yes.
So we'll ask you for decisions on each one separately.
So maybe let's do that right now. Let's tackle each one of these one at a time. The one we're having a bigger discussion on is the setback. The first one though is the density on the lot from 50 to 77. Let's talk through that real quick. And
The one, and then Zach included on staff comments here on the lot coverage, which is on page 10 of the PDF, or the total PDF, or the, it's not paged as far as that. But it says variance number 1, allowable lot coverage. As far as uniqueness, the property will be developed for educational purposes and not for residential dwelling, so it's a separate purpose.
Yeah, but it's not unique to that zoning district.
No.
R1 can have educational.
No, but I guess, what's the question in your mind, Curtis, regarding the uniqueness?
I don't see much of the uniqueness. I mean, they're already smashing a bunch of lots together to make a bigger lot so they can build a bigger building.
Correct.
It's not shallow or narrow compared to anything else in the neighborhood or R1 from what I can tell. Just seems like they want to build bigger than what is allowed.
Well, and, but 50% of the lot coverage on, for any of the school lots, I'm trying to figure out if they would equal, if they stay within that standard.
That's a good question.
Because if you took the football field out,
That's part of it.
but was it developed as such?
What about the building, the existing though, they use now?
Now, north is definitely have,
yeah, North has
got plenty of room.
West probably does as well. What about the
Like
central and the administration building? Well, it's got a big.
That's also in downtown zone. It's not. Is it
No,
R1?
it's an R1.
R1.
Yeah, adjacent though. But it's got that big playground area.
But I guess with educational facilities, to me, I'm going, I don't know, we have that 50% lot coverage, and I can see that with residential property. The other uses within R1, I'm trying to think, is that the right standard we should have?
Well, so the one thing that keeps popping up in my mind is, should it be rezoned to something besides R1?
Right.
That
You
would
know,
allow for
And then,
what they're doing.
then they need less variance.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what, we started to talk about having a public or
Right.
quasi-public.
We don't
zone.
have a zone for that kind of stuff, but
You know, we talked about it regarding both City Hall and the county courthouse and those type of buildings. You're not, just like City Hall here, ignore the parking lot, cause that's actually a separate lot. We're gonna occupy more than 50% of the
Yeah,
lot
right.
for City Hall.
Right.
Um, so,
Yeah, that parking lot in the back is large, but I'm not talking about the Wolack building parking lot, but yeah, the parking lot in the back of the building itself. Yeah, that whole tower too, right?
yeah,
And that workbench.
but I'm just talking about public buildings in general.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's maybe what creates the uniqueness is we're talking about a public building here and
Right.
not a residence.
That's what I think too.
Well, and that's what, and I think Curtis has hit on it right off the bat as far as when we consider these different points and how to proceed. We're dealing with a little bit of square peg, round hole type thing.
Mhm.
I get concerned with the precedent that we set that civic buildings get to break the rules and do whatever they want just because they're civic. And trample on the zoning regs.
I think this is where we're hitting a struggle where we need it, and we need a different zone type for what this is. It's not a residential building, but it's in a residential zone.
Right. Right. Yeah, most churches are in R1.
Yeah.
And would probably be held to that 50% lot coverage.
Yeah, and then you can see why, you know, we don't have many zones. All we have is R1, R2, well, downtown mixed use. R1, R2, downtown mixed use. Yeah, or, and then we have C1, and we have I1, I2. And that helps and fits a lot of different categories, but then we're running into something that maybe it doesn't fit. The problem is that we got the request in front of us.
Yeah.
And we're struggling a little bit because, you know, the applicant's not present and we don't have
Good site plans
or site plan yet or anything. But let's continue, would it be okay to continue beyond uniqueness?
Yeah, let's talk through it, see where we get.
The adjacent property, you know, the variance is not affecting the property license, and that's what Zach included in his report, or adjacent property or his residence. Water displacement will be part of the design of the structure, so it's not to harm the adjacent properties. The other thing regarding the adjacent property, now I lost that train of thought, sorry about that. The hardship, the requirement of the allowable lot coverage would force the design of the building to be smaller and not the full development of the intended use of property as a public educational building. The public interest, the requested variance will not adversely affect those type of things. And it will change the character of the neighborhood just because right now it's just a dirt parking lot. There'll be a building and there'll be a walkway and it'll be, try to have it connected to the other building that's close. The junior high school building, junior high and high school building. And regarding the other two, spirit intent and minimum variance. The minimum variance is kind of like, again, it would be better with a site plan. to know where the building sits on the lot, how close is it to the expected zoning lot. When I talk about zoning lot, talking about whatever parcel they're gonna use. You know, is it include that at least one house, but doesn't include the second house? Does it include neither of the houses? I don't know at this point. Those are the things regarding allowable lot coverage that are talked about.
Well, the, purpose of the lot coverage regs is to maintain that neighborhood cohesiveness and the aesthetic privacy for the adjacent landowners, obviously to control the density and preserve open space and protect property values. And this is a more than 50% increase in the allowable lot coverage, which I don't see as a minimum variance. I see that as excessive. I mean, 5%, 10% would be more along the lines of a minimum, but this is 50% more, so I do see that as substantial. And again, I don't want to set the precedent that we play favoritism for public or civic construction projects when they don't comply with the current code or regulations.
I think we're gonna need more information from the applicant, and we probably need to see a site plan, because from what I saw in their presentation when they were working on their bond issue, they're not, if the building can't be the size that they need it to be, it's not a feasible project. They have to, it limits what they can do in that building, which puts them right back in the situation they're in today. So if we're struggling to say it doesn't fit on this lot, we're putting a stop to their project.
Right.
And without them here, that's further than I'm comfortable going.
Sure. Well, and I don't think that's where it gets difficult, like you said, as far as need more information as far as supporting documentation,
Yes.
why they need, why the request for the variance.
Is there a study or documentation that's been done that says this is the way it has to be and these are the reasons why?
Well, I think they're looking at total square footage. And from the point of view of staff, as far as versus a dirt parking lot,
Sure.
I think it's an improvement to the neighborhood.
Yeah. That is
Yeah.
not in question.
I don't view it as a negative, as far as the building. Now, how will it fit best within the neighborhood? That's the question that's presented. And so I don't buy that it's making an exception for a civic building, because
Well, I have a feeling that we wouldn't approve a 50% overage lot coverage for somebody who wanted to build a big barn in their backyard, a big garage, just because they want it. I mean, put them on that. And if they wanted a variance, I'm sure we wouldn't approve a 50% increase. That's a lot.
Well, I think it depends on the project.
Right.
The house I live in right now is well over 50% coverage, and granted, that happened probably before there was any code or
Yeah,
any
existing non-conforming.
So
is gonna
that's
happen.
different, but if you look at my house and how it covers the lot, it's done in tastefully and it matches the neighborhood and it works, but it's probably closer to 75% lot coverage.
Yeah. I'm sure, I have no doubt that those exist, and, having that context and seeing the plans and the site plan and knowing what it's gonna look like goes a long way.
Yeah,
I mean, we just got a question mark, gray box.
I think we don't have enough information to make a good decision. I don't think we're standing in the way of anything yet, but we need to see a little bit more about how this is gonna fit on that lot and, what their plans are. I mean, I've seen their floor plans and, the building drawings and all that, but not necessarily how it all fits in, know, how's it gonna lay? If I'm looking at an aerial right now and I put that footprint over that lot, what's it look like?
Yeah, I'm more concerned with it. How does it look and feel on the street? That's how pedestrians and vehicle traffic is gonna perceive it as opposed to what it looks like from overhead.
Have you seen I mean, they have drawings.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I've seen those.
it. I've seen it.
With any big part of this, so, I think that for the best information that we have now, I guess I would ask the board to go ahead and table this discussion and ask for additional information from the applicant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would that be appropriate?
Yeah, I think that's where we're at right now. We need to have Zach go back to them and ask them for some of the things that we're looking for, you know, more detailed site plan. We'll put it back on the agenda for next month, and someone needs to be here so we can ask some questions.
Well, and for the specific requests, there's really nothing in the application materials that tells us where the 77% is coming from,
Yeah.
or the 8 foot from the front yard. We can put the big red box on the thing, but we don't know if that's correct.
Yeah, all we have is speculation.
And it would be helpful for us to make before we make a decision, to have that information.
Yeah.
But I think since we had the notice of hearing on the variance request, or the notice regarding the variance request, is to go ahead and have a motion to that effect. And a second, and approve that, and then we can, a motion to table at this time until additional information is provided by the applicant.
Okay. One of you guys want to tackle that, or you want me to do it? I think I got it.
Okay.
So I move that we table the variance request until we can gather more information from the applicant in regards to their site plan and have a member present at the meeting to ask questions.
I second
Okay, moved by Matt, seconded by Dennis. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Okay.
Would that go the same for the second variance as well?
Right. I would say so.
Yeah, might as well make it, yeah, we
Yeah.
should probably do 2.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
How about somebody else makes a motion?
Okay, I will make a motion that we table variance request number 2 for the front yard setback until a time at which we can get more information and we have a applicant present to answer questions.
I second.
Okay, moved by Curtis, seconded by Grady. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? All right. Thank you, guys. Okay, moving on. So a public hearing for text amendment section 19.501 and 502 RV parks as conditional use in residential neighborhoods. So it is 6:29 and we will officially open the public hearing. So Kent, you want to start with a little
Crickets.
background? Kent told me, you guys probably saw this, he's got a little bit of documentation in front of you.
We've talked about this for a couple months, which is kind of interesting. This text amendment started as a request at the city commission from members of the public, and the city commission requested the planning commission to consider a text amendment back in November, which I included the minutes from it because we had quite a bit of extensive discussion in November on and there's 2 text amendments. One affects the use table, which is the colored matrix, and involving the uses for the various districts, zoning districts, and then also the use standards as listed in section 19.502. We had quite a long discussion on November 11th regarding it. And because in the fall, summer and fall, we had two or three or four different cases be presented to the planning commission. So you guys had experience in the questions that surfaced regarding what these text amendments are supposed to address, which is RV parking in residential zones. What we had was, I think, three different cases of putting RV parks in commercial zones. And then also we had a variance request from the county regarding making a certain area at the fairgrounds an RV park as well. So because of those situations, we discussed this, and you guys had several things come up in those cases that provided, what would you call it, occasion to pause before approving something in a residential zone, or you saw different things that could be problematic. And what the direction was at the beginning was, in order to allow RV parks in residential zones as a conditional use, but also meet the same requirements as they would in a commercial zone. And I provided a copy of the minutes because I thought that at the bottom of the second page that I gave you guys, on the front part of that page, it has section 19502T, subsection T, which has 16 items which RV parks must meet those conditions. And we discussed several of those at length during that discussion in November. And at the end, Chairman McKenzie, and I yellowed that part for you as well, stated that we ended up talking about 12 of the 16 as different issues that came up, or that could come up in a residential zone. So at the meeting in November, the planning commission gave direction and just was asking the city commission, are you sure you want this to go through the public hearing process and have a recommendation from the planning commission? And the city commission replied, yes, they did. They still wanted it to go through the process and for the planning commission to provide their points for either being in favor of it or not in favor of it, and to elaborate or have those specifically stated what issues or what they see as problematic, and have that as a recommendation to the city commission. And so at last month's meeting, we asked to have you guys set the public hearing for this tonight, and that's what we did, and that's what we have as a public hearing on the text amendment that would allow RV parks in residential zones, R1 and R2, as a conditional use. And that's what you have before you tonight. I did not receive any additional contact, and I don't think Zach did either.
I'm assuming the interest in this is sort of waning as the need is less.
Yeah.
So I think we're kind of in a second phase of new crews coming now. So it tapered off at Christmas, and now it's climbing back up. So I know there are spaces open in all the commercial locations, but the last update I heard is the next round of crews are starting to get here now. So probably we'll fill back up.
Yeah, so,
Still a potential need for some.
There's gonna be interest, I think, especially into the spring months, and I don't know how long the project will go into the year. I've heard they're ahead of schedule, but I haven't actually heard that from a company representative. Hear that in the grapevine, but, it won't be forever. We know that this is a temporary deal,
Mhm.
so.
and that was the thing that the city commission gave direction on as well. They wanted it to only last for the next 18 months or something like that, which
Sunset
is
after a period of time.
set period of time. But that's also dependent, I think it was more dependent on the demand that was seen. But that didn't take away from the discussions that was had during the various issues that were brought to the planning commission of different issues that came up because of the additional RV parks in commercial areas.
Yeah, I wish there would have been a little bit more public feedback for us. I've heard from several, asked them to come to the meeting or send something and we didn't get it. So, you know, I wish we had a little more guidance than we do. But I just went back through the list again and circled the ones that I see that as people will come to us and if they want to do this, some variances they're going to have to ask for. And again, I got back to my 12 circles.
12 variances.
That,
Yeah.
and maybe not every case is going to have
Yeah.
every one of those, but these are the ones that I see in a residential area that are going to require further discussion. And when you get a list of 16 and 3/4 of them are something like, oh, we have to work through that,
Mm-hmm.
it gets to the point where it just doesn't feel like it fits to me. Anyway.
I agree.
I agree. That's a red flag. 12 out of 16 is.
Yeah, I could handle 2 or 3, you know.
Well, and on a variety of residential lots, when we went through the 12 previously, it was, that can happen in a lot of different situations, not just, it didn't seem like there was a whole lot of opportunities on the residential lots in Goodland.
Yeah, the size of a typical R1 or R2 lot's going to be prohibitive out of the gate.
Yeah,
The space required for the RV spot itself eats into a lot of that.
yeah.
Plus the hookups and what have you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. And that's not even counting the water, the electricity, sewer.
Yeah, it's all have to meet the code.
Well, we brought that up last time that, you know, in some places in town, the infrastructure that exists may not support that much more
Right.
than what's already there.
Yeah.
In terms of additional water and sewer.
Right, another half house
Electricity,
being put
yeah.
on there.
So there may be some bigger implications there too, just to be able to get the right hookups.
Additionally, you have, you know, the requirements, dusk to dawn lighting on the roadways, numbered signs for the spots. So you're gonna increase a lot of, and general lighting. I mean, I think there was a requirement for 3-foot candles for general outdoor illumination at an RV park. So you're gonna be having these lights on all night in residential districts.
Yeah.
Well, and having an RV on there doesn't bring up the same question we had with the previous variance that we were talking about, the 77%. We're adding more
Yeah.
to the property, so less space.
Density goes
The
up,
lot coverage.
lot
Yeah.
coverage.
I mean, the argument would be made that it's temporary,
Yeah,
but it's not temporary if someone's on there for 30 days and then they leave, and
Right.
the next person's on there for 30 days and then they leave, and then
Right.
the next person.
And had there not, we brought this up before, but there's been significant investment by some people with commercial lots to accommodate. Plus we have 2
Mhm.
commercial campgrounds in the city that, you know, I don't want to detract from. They're in the business to do this and set up to do this.
Yeah, they put all the money into it to make it work, so.
are they able to expand in those 2 areas, do you know?
I don't. KOA has expanded considerably
Yeah.
over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
That, you know, it's not hard for them to get full even without something like this because of their national brand and
Right.
Yeah. they have
Mid-America,
Name recognition.
you know, they have a lot of sites out there, and I would guess they stay pretty busy, but I don't know what their
All that
expansion.
stuff in the back was not there 2 years ago, right?
Mm.
The back half of that lot.
Oh, KOA, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and when this originally was, I'm
Well, there was
sorry,
that caretaker's house that was up there, that was already
yeah,
there,
all that stuff behind
but
it is
everything
new.
behind it was new.
Yeah, that's all new.
when it was originally brought to the city commission, we did have representatives from both the KOA and from Mid-America talk, and that was very much appreciated because of the investment that those two parks, and especially KOA, they spent several $100,000
All the upgrades.
to have, now they're gonna make money, obviously, that was the intent.
Yeah.
But they spent a lot in order to make their park usable. And Mid-America said something similar, and because of that, because of those two people coming, and Sean from KOA, and I'm forgetting the gentleman from Mid-America's name. But, because of their testimony, that's the reason why the city commission said we want them to meet the same criteria as the commercial campgrounds. And not vary it for folks who want to do this in a residential zone. And the point was well taken. And that's why when you're talking about these 16 areas, the commercial guys had to meet this
Yes,
as well. Now, we had two commercial campgrounds that had a variance for less than so many acres.
Yeah, they
acre
were
size.
Less than
right.
2 acres, but
right.
not by much.
But it wasn't significant, and it was definitely more than most residential lots in town. So I think that's important to consider as far as whatever recommendation the planning commission gives to the city commission.
Well, and we also had a variance request from the county for the fairgrounds that we did not approve for sewer hookups. You know, they wanted a variance to not have their sewer hookups, and so, you know, that's a case where it's already not a residential, it was a commercial zone, but they didn't have the sewer, and we said we weren't gonna make an exception there, so to have to make all these exceptions here in residential kind of goes against what we already did there.
Right, yeah.
Against the public health,
Yeah.
not have those kind of
Well-
infrastructures in there.
And I think it brought up, especially in the area of sewer, why it is important to have that.
Yeah,
And probably even more important in a residential zone.
Yeah,
Because, you know, during the comments during the county, it was like, well, there's nobody next to there, so if they mess it up, who's gonna know right away?
Farmer gets some free fertilizer.
But if it's right next to somebody else in town,
you're
yeah.
gonna know immediately.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
Sewer backed up.
Yeah.
Not to mention those hookups. I mean, I've seen them get crushed in KOAs where they have protection
Yes.
and you know, you're talking about someone trying to squeak into a residential lot with very narrow tolerance and clearance. You know, take that stuff out.
On the wear and tear on the streets, and, you know, like I say, it's not, I don't feel like it's made for, the residential area is made for that, you know? design
No.
wise.
Somebody pulling in at 2 a.m. shouting at their wife.
Right,
Am I gonna hit it?
Yeah.
we don't let semis drive around the residential area, you know?
Right.
Yeah,
You know,
The other thing I'll bring up again, I saw that we had talked about that last time, but I think it's worth bringing up again in this official hearing, is that we did do a fair amount of work early on when we all started to get ADUs approved and
Right.
easier to
Right.
incorporate into residential areas.
Right.
So much more permanent type structure, you know, fits the character of the neighborhood, density things are, you know, we made the code much easier to do something like that, and I think that's more in the spirit of what an R1 district would be, rather than
Absolutely.
right, yeah.
I agree, yeah.
Be more of a permanent
Yeah.
structure.
And there's, I mean, there's no reason why somebody couldn't build out an ADU specifically to rent it out to somebody
Right.
who's
Yeah,
coming to work.
absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
kind of the whole idea, is to provide additional housing that fits the spirit of the neighborhood and not just park a trailer there.
Now, it's not as quick
Yeah.
to create that. And that's probably the reason why this was seen as a
Yeah, this is
solution.
trying to come up with something quick for a short-term problem.
Right. But how is it going to affect the city even while it's there and even after it's no longer allowed?
It does concern me a little bit, even if we put a sunset date on this, that we have set a precedent that we would continue to do this again and set another sunset date, and then when does it become just part of the code and allowed? And I'm really struggling with how it fits in residential. We have a lot of commercial property that could be developed for this, and we've allowed that with some minimum variances.
Yeah.
Well, and even with the addition of the second set of folks or another wave of folks, don't know yet whether those additional commercial lots are all going to be filled
That's right.
as well. Because and I don't know, I have not checked with the owner of the property behind the Dollar General or the property behind Roadway Inn, or two additional 8-9 space lots that are in response to this.
Yeah.
Well, Chair, I think if you want to, seeing that we'll have no additional comment from the public, we can close the public hearing.
Okay.
And then you can work on what you would like your recommendation to the city commission.
Yeah. Okay, so it is 6:48. We'll officially close the public hearing. And with that, I think we probably need to come up with, we'll need a motion for what we want to send back to the city commission. But it also sounds like we need to detail some things. I don't know, Kent, if you want us to get to a formal list, or if we've got enough in our discussion for you to pull out. How do you want us to?
On these 16 items, I would like you to highlight which ones you see as
Okay.
particularly problematic for this request.
So I will go through my list, and you guys can add and change.
I think that will be the
as you
easiest
see.
to do.
And I'll give you the ones. So I'll give you a couple tiers here because I see some that are like, this is a big problem, and then some that are, this is going to require more discussion, and then there are a couple that are probably not.
Right.
So as I look through the ones that I see that are going to require a variance right away, number 2, the lot size of 2 acres. We don't have any residential lots that are that big. Number 4, landscaping. So if you look at vacant lots, just what Kent's notes say right there, a lot of our vacant lots are not landscaped and would require some effort there. The minimum widths and the setbacks, I think, are problematic. Lighting, I think, is problematic. Water service, number 9. Sewage disposal, 10. Trash, number 11. Electricity, number 13. And those are probably my biggest red flags right away that are going to require a variance. Sort of that secondary tier that I think takes more discussion. What's the drainage going to look like?
Right.
Are you going to have an improved surface that's going to create more runoff? Or you're not just going to park it on the grass, kind of thing. Identification of roadways and spaces. You know, what is your entrance and exits going to look like? The rodents and insects, maybe that's a big deal, maybe it's not.
Ties in with the trash.
But it does tie in with trash. And then a development plan. I mean, that doesn't have to be fancy, but you're gonna need a plan, and you're gonna need to have this thought out a little bit.
Yeah, have
Right.
to demonstrate that
Yeah.
you can meet those spaces between.
The ones that I think are probably a non-issue, the maximum number of spaces, nobody's gonna reach 20. So not a big deal. Nobody's gonna need that. We're probably not gonna have anybody with 10 that would need a service building. We probably wouldn't have, well, we're not gonna have anything with more than 5 acres, so they wouldn't need a central office. And I don't see an issue with registering the RV owners. So, you know, that's like 4 of the things that are a non-issue.
Right.
Everything else is either a variance request or a bigger discussion. You guys see anything different there?
No. No.
Now, as far as in section 1604, which is the adoption of either zoning changes or zoning text amendments, it does have a section on text amendments themselves. And when a proposed amendment would result in a change in the text of these regulations, but would not result in a change of zoning classification, I guess this is a change of zoning classification of any, well, it's not a specific property. The recommendation of the Planning Commission shall contain a statement as to the nature and effect of the proposed amendment according to the following items. This is 1609. Says whether such change is consistent with the intent and purpose of these regulations. And I think with all the items that you stated here, you don't think, I think from the comments that I'm hearing, you don't think it meets that. The B is the areas which are most likely to be directly affected by such change and in what way they will be affected. You're supposed to have a statement as to the nature and effect of it, and I think you see it problematic for residential areas is about all you can say. It's hard to say for a specific area. And then C, it says whether the proposed amendment is made necessary because of changed or changing conditions in the areas and zoning districts affected. And I do think it meets C as far as there's been changing conditions. That's why it was not part of the original code, and that's why there's the consideration now. That doesn't take away from the problems you have with it, but it meets C. So I think you're supposed to have a statement. I think don't think it meets A or B. And I'm sorry I didn't print this out for you ahead of time, but it meets C. Does that make sense to you all?
Yes.
And then as far as the adoption itself, the Planning Commission shall make a recommendation for either approval or denial of the amendment to the City Commission. And that's what your motion will be, is motion to approve these amendments, the 2 ordinances on the use table and the use standards, or a motion a recommendation to deny. And then what they had asked for is, okay, then state your reasons for. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where
that's the list.
This list will help without getting into, I can add details to it if you want, but that's up to you. I think this will hopefully should provide enough. And the discussions that have been had previously.
Okay. So, any other further discussion before we get to the motions? So we're gonna need 2 motions, because there are 2,
That's
there are 2 amendments. One is to the use code or the use table, and one is to the use standards. So if you guys have your packet open, there's a recommended motion in there. My phone doesn't tell me what.
Where
page
did I
I'm
put
on.
it? I'm trying to find
It's
it.
on page 4, I think. Page 4 of the packet.
Oh, and the manager memo part of
Yeah.
it?
Yes.
Yep.
Page numbers.
Okay, I move that, and it stays there.
So we recommend approval or.
Oh, and then he has
He's
it up
got-
on the
he's got
screen
it on
too.
Oh, look at that.
And I have three options there, approval or approval with amendments or not to
Not to-
approve
not to
or
approve.
denial,
Not to
you know,
approve,
either
yeah.
way.
So I think we're all leaning towards probably not.
Not to do it.
Is that how? Yeah.
Yeah.
So if somebody wants to make a motion,
Okay, I move that we recommend, for not to approve ordinance 18, an ordinance amending the text for chapter 19, section 501, use table to allow RV parks in residential zoning districts, the city commission.
I will second.
all right, moved by Grady, seconded by Curtis, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Okay, that one carries. Second motion,
I'll make the motion that we recommend to not approve ordinance 18, amending the text for chapter 19, section 502, use standards, subsection T, to allow RV parks in residential zoning districts to the city commission.
I second it.
all right, moved by Curtis, seconded by Dennis, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Okay, that one passes too, so. Kent, I think if you take that with our list,
I'll take it with your list and I'll present it to the city commission at their next meeting, next Tuesday.
I'll make a point to be at that meeting too, in case they have questions.
And we'll see where we go.
Okay,
And one thing I wanted to say was, when the planning commission submits a recommendation of approval or disapproval of such amendment and the reasons therefore, the city commission may, one, adopt it by ordinance, that's if there's a recommendation for approval. Two, override the planning commission's recommendation by a 2/3 vote of the membership of the city commission. So they can override that, I just wanted to let you know ahead of time.
Right.
Yep.
They can override it or return such recommendation, they can return it again to the planning commission with a statement specifying the basis for the city commission's failure to approve or disapprove. I just want to let you know ahead of time, because sometimes planning commissions and city commissions will, when there's a recommendation and the city commission doesn't follow it for whatever reason, sometimes that becomes an obstacle to further communication between. I don't think it will for this one, because there's been enough discussion and everybody kind of knows
mm-hmm,
what the discussion has been, but I wanted to let you know.
yep,
Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
fair enough. Okay, we will move on to item number 5, a discussion on fences and city code.
This is Zach's deal.
I read in the packet, it looks like we have some discrepancy in the code on where things don't say the same thing.
Correct. The first part, we have in our procedures, we have generally fences up to 6 feet in height are permitted for rear yard privacy. Only small, low profile ornamental fences and walls are permitted in the front yard. And he highlighted that in yellow, and he stated the code doesn't match standards. we basically have in our code in section 4.801, no person, firm, or corporation shall construct a fence within 4 feet of a city curb or curb line. That gets difficult, and this kind of relates to sidewalks in general. Because if your fence is all the way, and I have a fence that's on my side yard, that gets within 4 feet, that gets awful hard to work on the sidewalk. If you have to tear it out and put it back in, having the fence that close to the sidewalk can be an issue. And we've also had it become an issue as far as sightlines. Even though it's beyond the sightline triangle, you come up to certain corners and the fence is there. But you can also have living material there too. You can have bushes and everything else cause a problem as well. So that's some issue. And he also had, do we want to look at rewarding to only be for sidewalks and roads, is 4 foot tall, putting a heavy thumb on people, as far as in the front yard. We also have, a little bit further, no barbed wire, which is probably a good thing, or electric fence. Zone in R1, R2, mobile home, or on any place that a dwelling exists regardless of zoning. But we probably should reword that instead of residential 1, residential 2, residential 3 to match our zone, our names of our zones. And the bottom part it has in blue, it shall be unlawful, section 15.305, unlawful for any person owning or controlling any hedge, fence, or shrubbery to permit the same to grow to a height of more than 4 feet. Well, there's plenty of places in town where we have that occur. Doesn't mean we want to do that. And in 19607, fences, we say 4 feet from the backside of curb. Fence may not prohibit public access on a sidewalk. We do have that in a couple locations. But then we have in 19607D, it shall be to 7 feet, not 6 feet, up to 7 feet on fences.
That's specifically though for public schools. Oh no, it's parks, playgrounds, commercial zones. Okay.
All kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So is that the reference from the ground, or, you know, sometimes they build that concrete low slab, you know,
Yeah.
is it, because the pickets are 6, you know, yeah. Gotta be a little more specific on that.
Yeah, 7 feet from grade, or 7 foot tall fence allowing you to have a 1 foot concrete curb to prevent
Right.
digging.
So I guess there's some questions and trying to have uniformity. It'll lead into a discussion about sidewalks. Sidewalks, what we'd like to do is encourage conversation to an overall sidewalk plan in town.
That's on my list, Kent.
Yeah.
We need a sidewalk plan in this town.
Yes,
So
sir.
let's start that discussion.
A pedestrian plan, yes, to get people around. But fences is part of that,
Mhm.
you know, and that's part of this whole deal and part of the looking at the town in general.
So, talking about all this, so is it 4 feet from the curb, the city is what we call the easement, for the city, they kinda can do what they want?
Well, like we had earlier with the school district property,
The
The
right of
right
way
of
is
way
bigger
is-
than the street.
is always bigger than the street.
Okay.
But the sidewalks, you know, some people get confused about that sometimes too, thinking, well, that's not on my property, but you're responsible for the property all the way to the curb. You know, and if it's a sidewalk there, that's still your responsibility. And some people argue, and well, no, that's the city's responsibility because it's within the city right of way. So it becomes a ground for argument rather than trying to make the community better.
So is there clarity on that? Maybe that's something we need to have some clarity on that before we go move on to this, you know?
Well, and that's where this,
They run hand in hand.
some of the, what the names you use are important. And to be clear on that.
I think a good place to start is to start on some of this wording, like the residential 1, residential 2, residential 3 mobile home that doesn't match
Doesn't match our zoning.
right now. That's a great place to start. Those are easy things to change. Just
Yeah.
make them match. And then we start there, and then, you know, some of these other points where in one place we say 6 feet, in one place we say 7 feet, and then we don't define from where that point is. I think that's kind of the,
Yeah.
so, you know, there's some couple low-hanging fruit
Low-hanging
things right
fruit.
here that Zach could
Uh-huh.
start on. And then I think that leads into the bigger, then the next thing is, okay, is 4 feet right? If 5 feet is an ADA compliant sidewalk, is 4 feet the right thing? And, you know, I think that's the next discussion after the wording changed. Is that how it feels to you guys?
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then maybe that will lead us into the bigger discussion of what you said, Grady. Whose job is it? What's a pedestrian plan look like in this town? You know,
Right.
all those sorts of things.
Yeah, I mean, would a fence would it be the same height depending on zone? Or would, you know, a commercial zone allow different height of fence?
That I don't know it well enough to answer with 100% certainty.
I don't see it in here, but at one time, I mean, I never read it, but I know when I put my fence up, my fence is on the side of my side yard. And I was told it had to be 40 feet from the center of the
From
street.
the street.
Yeah. But I
I
don't.
think that's
I
how
don't-
it used to
Okay.
read.
I've never seen that though, but
Yeah.
I'm not reading that here either, so. Is it- We don't use that anymore, or is that just something somebody made up?
Somebody else's rule of thumb.
Just made it up.
I'm sure there's plenty of that going on too.
I know there used to be some center line of right of way verbiage
Yeah,
in the
I
code.
never knew what it was, though.
And
Still is some.
Because it depends on what street you're on as far as, they use that center line as, here's how wide the right of ways are.
Alright.
So Broadway is 110, or 100 feet for a majority of it. So it's 50 feet from the center, is that what it is?
Okay. And the other part of that too is, and I'm, in my instance, I can see why they did that because my water meter sits right there. If I would have put it close to the sidewalk, my water meter would have been inside my fence. And then, you know, I guess now it's not a big deal because it's all electric,
Yeah,
electronic,
would be
Yeah.
remote.
Yeah.
but, you know,
Used to be a big problem.
yeah.
So is that enough direction to get started?
I think so.
Okay.
We'll have a better game plan.
Okay.
Be able to present you something.
Okay. Well, let's move on to reports. Grady, anything to report?
Nothing to report.
Dennis?
No.
Curtis?
I do not.
Nothing from me, Kent? No? Okay. Minutes. Everybody have a chance to look at the minutes from December 9th? I did because I wasn't here. I was going to go back and watch your video, but I have not had time. So I'm sure it was fantastic.
Grady did great.
Yeah.
It was short and sweet.
That's good. Okay, so any additions, corrections, subtractions from the minutes?
No.
Is there a motion?
I move we accept the minutes from December 9th or whenever that was.
I'll second that. So moved by Dennis, seconded by Matt. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? All right, one last thing. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Making the motion to adjourn.
I will second.
All right, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, nay? Thank you, guys.